Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into the heart of Docker, the Docker Daemon. If you've ever wondered what keeps your Docker containers running smoothly in the background, this episode is for you. In programming, the name often tells us what a program does, and that's true for the Docker Daemon too. The Docker Daemon is the brain behind everything that happens in Docker. It's a background process that manages all Docker objects, like containers, networks, and images. Without it, none of your Docker commands would work. Okay, so how does it work? The Docker daemon, also known as Dockered, runs as a background process and listens for API requests from Docker clients, like the Docker CLI. When you run a command like docker run or docker build, the Docker client sends that request to the daemon, which then processes and executes it. The Docker daemon also manages the life cycle of containers, handling everything from starting and stopping them to managing their resources like memory and networks. It's also responsible for pulling images from repositories when needed. The Docker daemon works on a client-server architecture. Every time you run a Docker CLI command, like docker run, it sends a request to the Docker daemon, which is running as a server. This means the real heavy lifting is done in the background, keeping your containers and images running without you even noticing. Here's something cool. You can use Docker's API to communicate directly with the daemon from your code. For example, in Golang, you can create programs that interact with Docker containers. Let's take a look at a quick code snippet that inspects the state of a container. Another awesome feature is Docker events. Docker events give you real-time insights into what's happening inside your containers. From start and stop events to image pulls and network changes, Docker events allow you to monitor everything. Here's how you can monitor Docker events in real time using the Docker SDK in Go. Just add a few lines of code to fetch and filter events like container creation or destruction, and voila! You're all set to track key activities happening within Docker. Let's take a peek at how processes for the Docker daemon look under the hood. If you're using Docker on macOS or Windows, you've probably heard of Docker Desktop. Unlike the CLI, Docker Desktop uses a virtual machine to run the Docker daemon since it requires a Linux environment. In this video, we learned how Docker daemon works behind the scenes, how it interacts with Docker CLI, and how you can leverage the Docker API to build custom tools using Go. So, whether you're running containers or tracking events, the Docker daemon is always at work in the background,